Like these sunglasses, bought it from a gas station.
I don't, but I do like that. What'd you pay? $9.99 for them some bitches?
1999, but it was
Oh,
so the
steep.
reason why I bought
Steep.
them, I let me explain myself,
Okay.
is I would look at these sunglasses every time I was at the gas station by my house,
Sure.
and I'm like, "Do I buy them today?" And
Yeah.
every day I'd say, "No, $20 is too much."
Okay.
I then went to get coffee on the first day of my vacation, and you
Yeah.
know how when you're on vacation, you say, "Fuck it"? I was like,
All
"I
the
want these
rules
for
are
my
out the
vacation."
window. Yeah.
All the rules are out the window. I'm getting these rippers.
Now, when you walked back into your domain, what did your wife say?
She didn't care for them, nor did she care that I bought 2 pairs because one of them went to my son.
Well, you know what? In that respect, I like them. Anytime you can match Raffi, I think that's A plus.
One goo, three, yeah. Goo. Jaws three. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Entertainment.
I'm Goo,
And I'm Mac.
and we are the Mac and Goo program. We bring you friendship.
And today we're bringing you a father-son relationship with some friends involved. This is a real touching movie, more touching than I think most folks give it credit for, at least at the time, back in 1995 when this
Yeah.
was reviewed. And the years since, and the 30 years since, spoiler alert, this came out April 7th, 95, 30-year anniversary just hit the other day, hence why we're reviewing this movie. I think in the years since, people have learned and grown to really appreciate this movie. The movie we're talking about, of course, today is a Goofy movie.
Mm-hmm. And even today, looking at, because I was trying to send you something, I was going to get something for your sack, but I guess we'll just put it right here.
Mhm.
I was trying to rank this against the other Disney Renaissance movies.
Yeah.
And in all of the websites that I checked, they don't count this as a Disney Renaissance movie.
No, I don't think I ever did either. And I don't think you did either. It did come
It
out in that
came
time
out in the
frame,
middle. It
but
came out in the middle of it.
but I don't think it was ever really considered part of it. And I think while they were making it, they knew that too, based on the effort they put forth,
Yeah,
at the
but
time.
if you're counting The Rescuers Down Under, which wasn't great,
Yeah.
this is right in there too.
Yeah, it strikes me, and we'll get into this in a few minutes when we're talking about the cast. It strikes me that they thought that this movie was gonna stink and no one was gonna see it. And it didn't get reviewed as well as they had hoped, obviously, or maybe what they predicted. But it did double up its money at the box office. So that'll be a conversation we'll have in a few minutes. It is interesting that I feel like the studio didn't put enough behind this because this movie truly is very good.
Well, so one of the things that we learned in the documentary that came out just this past week is that what they were trying to do at Disney was see if they could create lightning in a bottle with less of a budget than what they had with their other mega hits.
And I feel like they actually did it. It just didn't register at the box office, right? And obviously, you read reviews from them too. It didn't really register there. But this movie has aged tremendously well. I feel
The
like,
amount of critics that pretty much said, hashtag not my goofy, like grow up, guys.
yeah, like we really needed a fucking specific type of Goofy. So
This is not the Goofy that I grew up with. I didn't see him slip on one banana peel.
they wanted Goofy to be Chevy Chase in SNL. Uh, once again, a Goofy movie debuted April 7th, 1995. At the box office, it made $35.3 million. No international release for this as well. Very rare for a Disney movie. That also hurt it. This had an $18 million budget, so again, doubled up. It made money. Certainly didn't lose it. This made $6.1 million on its opening weekend, finishing second to Bad Boys. Also the opening weekend for Bad Boys, which made 15.5. And it just edged out Tommy Boy, which finished third in its second weekend of release. So that really brings you back to a time and place. And this is the 95. Goo and I are both 6 years old. And this is really around 6 is where I feel like you really start remembering media and liking certain types of media and really falling in love with certain things. And I remember seeing this movie as a kid, but for some reason, this didn't become a favorite of mine in the way maybe it did for you, because you've been talking about this movie for like as long as I've known you, and it it never quite ticked up as high for me as it has for you.
Right. And during this rewatch, there are definitely things that still stand out as being great, but there are parts, and this is what, an 82-minute movie?
It's a great question. I forgot
I
the
believe it
runtime.
is.
Yeah.
But when you see it, you're like, we could have shaved. We could have gotten to the point either quicker, or we could have given more examples of other things.
There's a good amount of time before the road trip. It takes a little bit to get into the
I
road
would
trip.
so all of the music, by the way, this is spoiler filled. All of the music done by Goofy and Max outside of their final song of Nobody Else But You, throw it in the bin.
88 minutes, by the way.
88 minutes.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this movie in God knows how long. I couldn't tell you the last time. I completely forgot how much music is actually in this movie.
Lot.
Original
A lot.
music, too.
Yeah.
And
It's
you're
a
right.
lot of music.
And maybe that's why it doesn't register with the Renaissance, too, is it's pretty forgettable. It sort of fits with the movie, and it is pretty creative, but it's not, radio level. It's not popular level. And maybe that's why when they maybe tested this movie, they sort of eschewed it and didn't really want to push it the way they did with those other 90s movies.
And I guess you can really only do so much with the singing voice of Goofy.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, this song should have been 30 seconds long.
Goo, this is G rated. We don't do too many G rated ever, so that's good. That's good for everyone. It's rated G for Goofy. Huh? Or for Goo? Huh?
They definitely did something there with that, right?
Oh, I'm sure. I don't remember. We were 6. Like I said, runtime of 88 minutes. This is an animated adventure and comedy. I also think there's some decent drama. It's a good family movie. It's a musical. There's some romance in here. Subgenres via the great IMDb. Animal adventure, which I don't think it qualifies.
And they even talk about this on the documentary of like, we went out of our way to not make a talking animal movie. Well, yes, these are talking animals, but it's not really.
They're bipedal. They're humanoids, basically. We look at them as human characters. Buddy comedy, which it is and it isn't. Like
it's a road trip.
Yeah, it's pop musical, road trip, slapstick, a little bit of that with Goofy, teen adventure, teen comedy, and teen romance. And I also think maybe that's why this kind of missed the mark originally. It is gauged more for like a 12 to 14 audience than say like
it's
a 6
not
to 10.
timeless. It's not timeless.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the critics had an issue with of, well, we just saw The Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid. Those are all timeless classics. This is I feel like if you weren't a certain age when this came out, it's kind of not over your head, but it's under you.
It's not relative. It's nothing. Yeah. It's nothing you can relate to. And like, if you're too young, you're just not connecting to Max like falling in love with Roxanne. Like, if you haven't maybe got to middle age or middle school yet, where you're like have that real big first crush, that the whole thing like just is gonna fall apart. You're not going to house parties in 5th grade. You might be in 7th or 8th grade. And even though it's only a 2 or 3 year gap, that's a huge 2 or 3 year gap. And I think that is a fair criticism. And we see that in the results here, right? On Rotten Tomatoes, 64% from the critics, 71% from the audience, a 53 on Metacritic. So basically Met's a Met. And when you're rewatching this movie now, you're actually like, wow, this is a really good family movie, a really good father-son story. Pretty relatable in that aspect. However, marketed towards kids, it's not going to hit like maybe they intended.
Right. So one of the parts of this movie on the rewatch where I'm like, maybe we could have done something different. Like maybe we didn't need Sasquatch. We didn't need Bigfoot. You could have just had a bear or something. But one of my lasting memories from watching it as a child was Bigfoot in it. So you kind of have to weigh that. It is a children's movie.
Yeah, I guess they did middle it. Now the more that we're talking about it, and I'm more understanding as to why it kind of failed. But as we talked about a news dump earlier this week, this has become a bit of a cult classic.
Yeah.
Especially with the Black community. And I find that fascinating that like the Black community has really taken to this movie of all the Disney movies. And did they talk about that in the documentary as well?
A little bit, not a ton though.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that this character in this story has become that popular. Goo, this is written by Jim Magoon. He was the creator of DuckTales, a writer on Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, the Matthew Lawrence vehicle. Chris Matheson, a writer on the Bill and Ted movies. Brian Pimental, a writer on Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Brother Bear. So they had the creatives here. Like, they had the right writers in the room. So it's interesting it didn't
Not only that,
quite pan out.
Jim Magan, is that Jim Magan? How are we pronouncing the director?
Magan? Yeah, I don't know. And he spells it
He also went on-
Aymn.
Yeah, he also went on to direct. He's not the director. Where's the director?
Director is Kevin Lima, who directed Tarzan 3 years later.
Yeah, he did Tarzan 3 years later. So he was able to do one of these big Disney pictures that I think was just outside of our window of Disney movies, but it visually and direction is actually quite good.
Yeah, and don't forget, Kevin Lima also directed 102 Dalmatians and Enchanted. Enchanted was ahead of its time. It's not great, but it was ahead of its time. Synopsis of a Goofy movie. When Max makes a preposterous promise, by the way, preposterous is one of my favorite words in the English language. Yeah. I love saying it. Makes a preposterous promise to a girl he has a crush on. His chances of fulfilling it seems hopeless when he is dragged onto a cross-country trip with his embarrassing father, Goofy. This movie stars Bill Farmer as Goofy. Bill Farmer became the official voice actor of Goofy in 1987, so that lays into Goose #NotMyGoofy. He also voiced Pluto and Horsecollar and other Disney cartoons, Stinky in the Casper films, and Sylvester, Foghorn Leghorn, and Yosemite Sam in Space Jam. So pretty notable voice here.
So one of the things that is told to us in the documentary is that Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was
By the way, that documentary for the people, where's that at? Not
Disney Plus.
Oh, Disney Plus. Okay.
Disney Plus. So I forget what his official title was. He was in charge of the animated movies at Disney during the Renaissance. So he had a bit of a golden touch. But while watching some of the animation and the voiceover lineup, he had the idea that what they should do for Goofy is not have him sound like Goofy. Like, what if we got Steve Martin? And they're like, oh, Steve Martin to do a Goofy impression? And they're like, no, just have Steve Martin. And then they went and they talked to Bill Farmer and they're like, hey, could you just do this in your regular voice just so we can show Katzenberg? And he did it in his regular voice. And they showed him like, hey, if you want a Goofy movie, he has to sound like Goofy.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But to be fair, I don't think anyone really gives a fuck about Goofy. You know what I mean? Like, Goofy is no one's favorite character. He's always
I was a Donald Duck boy growing up. How about you?
Goofy's like always a B level, secondary favorite. So I know there's it's like pretend outrage, right? No one really cares. It's just something to make a point about. So I guess that would have been fine if they changed it. But part of the Goofy magic is he's goofy, right? He's an embarrassing character. He's slapstick. And that's why this story works, because Max is embarrassed of his father.
He's also, he's so over the top, but it still allows you to be in Max's shoes. And I don't want to get too deep into your personal life or my personal life, but I do feel like for every child, whether you are a son or a daughter, there is a fear of becoming your parent.
Yeah, I think everyone who has a parent, I think, or everyone that, like, how do I want to phrase this so that it makes most sense? Everyone that is
try and make the least amount of sense as possible as we say this.
Everyone that is raised by a parent and like grows close with a parent is afraid they're going to become their parents. But then later on, like in this movie, you learn that it's not a bad thing. In fact, it might be a good thing.
Not only later on, it's Goofy throughout the entire movie telling Max about how much he admires his father.
Right.
That he is now at an age where he can look back on it being like, wow, I really loved my dad.
Yeah, and I think we've all gone through that process at some point, or maybe still going through that process where when you were younger, you did not understand why your parents did certain things or their motivations. And later on in life, you learn more about your parents because you become more friends than, father-son or father-daughter, mother-son, mother-daughter. And you really start to appreciate and understand why they did certain things. things.
And really, this movie does hit me, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds of my life, but I would say for a handful of years, I was a complete dickhead to my dad. Like I wouldn't say that I was a bad son, maybe, but like
I would say you were difficult.
I pushed the limits with my father
Yeah,
for a good amount of time.
right.
But even through that time, whenever I would come to him with something that, I needed advice on or I needed anything for, he was always there to help me, no matter if the day prior I was, crawling on his face and smushing him around, whatever.
And you, famously, what was your method of apology to your father for being such a dickhead?
I have a tattoo of his face on my leg.
And who got this? What were you, 19, 20 when you got
On
this?
my 19th birthday, I got a tattoo of my dad's face, and everyone from that point on just assumed that he was dead. He
Yes,
is still
because
alive
that's
and kicking.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And that's the natural, like, when you get someone's face, a parent's face tattooed on you, one would assume that they're perished, but Goo did that as an apology.
I did it as an apology to my dad, and then I went on for 3 to 4 more years of just being a shithead. But also, like you just said, you keep on learning more and more things about your parents as you get older. My dad just tells me stories now that I don't think are real, and then my mother will sit in the corner and just shake her head and go, "Yeah, that actually happened."
And
And I'm like, I don't know anything about my father.
yeah, yeah, but when you get older, and unfortunately, Goo, I know everything about my father, so it is a different relationship we have with our fathers, for better or worse. I think now it's, water finds its level. But this is something, I just lost a grandmother a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad over the last like 4 or 5 years, because she was real old school, tight knit, didn't tell us like stories about her heyday. In the last 4 or 5 years, she started opening up about that stuff. And she had some really cool stories. And I wish they were stories she told me 10, 15, 20 years ago, but that's not how she operated. And I think this movie really reminds you that of those things, so spend a little more time with your parents, your grandparents, because it's finite, it goes away. And that's why this movie is so good, because there is a good family story here. Like it got misconstrued, I think, 30 years ago. And I think that's why it's become a cult classic now.
I also would have liked if they took a little more time. And how far are we into the cast list? But whatever.
We've just done Goofy.
I would have liked if they took a little more time. I think we got 3 scenes of Goofy and Pete,
Mhm.
and the split in how they raise their children, where one rules with an iron fist. You need to have them under your thumb. The other, and it's really pushed in that hot tub scene of of Goofy being like, that's not true. My son loves me. And then Pete says, my son respects me. And it's like,
and we know we all had friends that grew up with that type of father where,
yeah,
if it works, it works, but there's different parenting styles, and different children need to be parented differently, but like it does a good job of like conveying that as well.
yeah. And maybe they touch on it more in a very Goofy sequel when the boys and Goofy go to college. But like, I feel like there's another story with Peach here,
Yeah.
where he has his either rebellion years or he grows up and maybe his relationship with his father isn't great after he hits a certain age.
Right. Yeah. No, it's interesting to think about that. Yeah. Let's run through the rest of this cast list real quick. James Marsden as Max Goof. You might know James Marsden as JT's best friend on Step by Step, named Rich. He's Nelson in Full House for a handful of episodes. He's also the voice, famously, of Thackeray Binks, Goo from Hocus Pocus.
He also plays James Marsden on Boy Meets World.
Goo, Jim Cummings as Pete. You would know him as Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, and a million other things. Very famous voice actor. Kelly Martin as Roxanne. Rob Paulson, one of Goo's favorites, as PJ Pete. Wallace Shawn, another one of Goo's favorites, as Principal Mazur.
That's what it's all about. It's a Mount Rushmore of Goo's favorites between Jim Cummings, Rob Paulson, Wallace Shawn, and Pauly Shore.
I was going to say, well, he's uncredited. You just ruined it. I was going to say, fourth one on there, Jenna Von Oy as Stacy. You might remember her as Blossom's friend with the hats. That's right.
Right. I like her with the hats.
Friend.
But also, though, you're about to get to Frank Welker, who is one of the all-time great voiceover actors at just making noises.
Yeah, Frank Welker as Bigfoot. Kevin Lima, the director, as Lester, Joanne Worley as Miss Maples, Julie Brown as Lisa, Joey Lawrence, one of the Lawrence brothers in here, is Chad, and of course, Goo, couple uncredited roles here. Pauly Shore as Bobby Zemersky, and Tevin Campbell as Powerline. Now, I was curious as to why Shore is uncredited because his voice is so distinct, and he's not doing a voice; he's just doing Pauly
I'm
Shore.
curious.
I have it right here. I
Oh,
looked it
okay.
up. You don't even need to think on it. Pauly Shore requested that his role be uncredited because he didn't want Disney to capitalize on his name, similar to Robin Williams' request for Aladdin.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
Pauly Shore was very popular in the 90s, but I also think that he might have had an inkling that this movie wasn't going to be good, and he didn't want to be as attached to it via credits as he no doubt was going to end up being because everyone knew it was him.
So I would assume that if this was a PG-13 movie, instead of giving him Cheese Whiz, they'd be giving him drugs, correct?
Yeah. And you could tell.
Oh, cheddar! It's leaning down cheese. So I will say that
Iconic
as
line.
a kid, he's the character that you quoted the most.
Yeah, for sure. And you could tell that they just got him in the recording studio for probably a day or two and had him just riff, and they used whatever they could use.
And then really the unsung hero of this movie, I think the thing that most people remember from this movie is Tevin Campbell Powerline.
Yeah. I mean, like, a Goofy movie is a very good movie. We just spent a good 15 minutes talking about why. But what we remember from it is the pop star Powerline. Like, that's why it became iconic, or that's part of the reason why it became a cult classic, because that character is iconic.
Right. And what's maybe more iconic than anything on here is the final performance when we get the perfect cast. I was at a wedding once where the bride and groom did it, and I said, they're going to last forever.
Yeah, that's pretty great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out those people. That takes some planning and some effort there. Good.
Also in the documentary, they showed how they needed actual human beings to perform the dance ahead of time so they can get the models for the animation. And seeing the three people, and they would have them like the certain height, and how like each of them had to dance a very specific way. Like Goofy had to be a bit looser and a bit more comical. But seeing the three people dance for it, fucking iconic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's get to the gauntlet here.
Fun factor, I do think that this does lack a bit of fun.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. It could be more fun. I think that's definitely fair. It could be more fun. It's fun, but compared to other Disney movies that are, I guess, more cartoonish, like, because, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, it's real dramatic stories. This isn't as dramatic. The ones that are more cartoonish like this are generally more fun, but this does have enough fun.
Satisfactor. This is first off, I think one of the greatest callbacks in movie history of giving you the setup in the middle of the movie with the perfect cast and then bringing it back at the end with the goofs doing it on stage with Powerline. That is up there with Leo pulling out a flamethrower in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I mean, I wouldn't quite put it on that level, but it is a pretty satisfying ending. That's for sure.
Borometer. It does take you a little bit of time to get into the story. It does give you some of the background of what Max is dealing with. It gives you some of the background, a little bit of Goofy at his job, and Goofy's job being that he works with children and how good he is at working with children, younger children. But then you get to he's not good at Max's age, Max's teenager.
Right. And I forgot about that aspect because I hadn't watched the movie so long. And it's kind of sad, Goofy's a very sympathetic character in this movie because he is so good with kids in general, but he's not good with his kid. It's a very easy thing to like get behind there.
And the one thing that I like, they don't get really deep into this, is how Goofy says that he's kind of missed those years with Max in between. But like, he seems like he's very attentive and he tries to be in Max's life. So maybe he's kind of like had a blind eye to it.
Yeah, hasn't figured out a way to get through, or thought he was, and now is just realizing he wasn't.
Okay. We just worked our way through that. Thank you with that.
Yeah.
Halloween. This has aged like a fine wine.
I agree. I think over the years and as you get older, this movie gets better and more relatable. And it is relatable in that certain age range, like 12 to 15 and maybe even older. But as we become adults, this movie gets even
Yeah.
more relatable.
I think about this constantly, and maybe this just has to do with my horrible personality. Of often when I'm playing with my son, and we're getting into the story of the adventure of our playtime.
Yeah.
I'll sit back for a second and think, he's gonna hate me someday.
At least for a couple years.
Like he's not gonna like me.
Yeah.
So really, let's enjoy this time
Well,
because
are
he
you
is not gonna like me.
It depends, right? Because usually, not all, but typically, a lot of parent dynamics is there's the good cop, bad cop, right? Are you good cop or are you bad cop?
I'm the bad cop, but I'm the least threatening bad cop ever. Like there have been times when people have said to Rafi, my son,
Yeah.
wait till your father gets home or wait till we tell your father. And I can hear them in like the other room being like, what's his father gonna do? Huh?
Yeah, at
I'm
some
gonna
point,
repeat what they just said.
he's gonna read the room and be like, "Well, no one else is afraid of him. Why should I be afraid of him?"
Anything, be afraid of your mom. I'm petrified. Aquater World, is this better than 1995's? Oh, the same year!
Is Waterworld 95 as well?
I believe so.
Wow, you might be right.
Is it better than Waterworld? Yeah, it's better than Waterworld.
Yeah, it is. It is better than Waterworld.
But they each have their own separate charm.
Totally agree.
Pants Tent City, Excite Bike Mania. What gets you going from this movie? It's the Powerline concert. It's the conclusion of the movie. It's them finally seeing number 2.
July 95 for Waterworld, so 3 months later.
Yeah.
It's Pants Tent City is and it's like you said, the callback. They open with Max doing the power line, and then it ends with that. Like
Yeah.
it's a great culmination of the story and the moment that they set out to do from the beginning.
Plemonade with those lemons and Plemons. What are you doing with your time there? Are you making it good like Jesse Plemons? Or are you making it nice like in White Lotus with Sam Rockwell? You tell me. Who is it, Mac?
Mama makes a nice and neat meatball. To me, it's like clearly Pauly Shore, even though he's only on screen for like maybe 3 minutes total. Everything he says is funny, and like you said, the most quotable line in the movie is from Pauly Shore.
Tevin Campbell.
Tevin Campbell's great. Tevin Campbell's great. Power line's
The
great.
2 songs that they created are both of the time and age extremely well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that's also a very, very good point.
For those of you tardy to the Mac and Goo Party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. Mac, really the father-son dynamic of this movie, both as a son and as a father, you see, while both of them have their faults and both of them have issues at certain points of they do things that they shouldn't do. Like Goofy should have talked to Max after Max went to the principal's office and not just assume that he's going to jail. Max should have had a conversation with his father about, hey, why don't we just go to Los Angeles? And Goofy probably would have said yes, as long as we're spending time together.
Right. Yeah.
But they both do things that the other one doesn't approve of. And while, yes, conversation and communication is an issue for both of them in this movie. And the Hi Dad Soup scene is a very good example of like how they have a tough time talking to each other right now. But I love the father-son stuff in this. And like I said earlier, I love how you have the 2 examples, and really even 3 examples of you have Goofy, Pete, and then you even have like Roxanne's dad, where you know so many dads of, girl dads who just try and be as big and threatening as possible.
Yep.
But then when the girl's like, hey, dad, he's like, I really do enjoy this movie. You can see where some of the corners are cut. Could they have tightened it up a little bit? Maybe, but I would have wanted more of what we already got elsewhere. I don't love a lot of the music in this, but just as a story and just the overall thought and I think the passion that goes into the writing and the emotions of this movie, it's tough because I wouldn't want to put it up there with like the absolute Disney classics.
Yeah,
But it's like that next level down, and it's really unique against the other ones because
okay.
there's no other Disney movie like it.
You're right. You're correct about that.
So 34?
Okay. You're good. We're just got a good synergy these days. First of all, I want to start my quick hot dog review here by handing out credit to Jason Marsden, who rudely skipped over Mac's credit union. Jason
Oh, sorry.
Marsden is the machine that makes this whole thing go. Him as Max Goof is awesome. There's something about his voice, even now, that sounds very teenagery, which is why he works really well here. He worked really well in all those teenage type shows. It just works really well. He does a great job showing a range of emotions as Max Goof. Goo, I'm kind of in step with you here. I thought you were going to come in higher than that. Um, I think this movie has rightfully become a cult classic over the years, rightfully starting to get its justice, its flowers these days. They just released its 30th anniversary documentary, which might be introducing new people to this movie. This is a really good story. And maybe it doesn't have the high highs of a lot of the Disney Renaissance greats. It definitely doesn't have the great music of those movies. But it has a great story at its core. And I was thinking 34, 35 hot dogs. It's a really good movie, and it's hard to not like it at our age where we've seen both ends of it, being the 12, 13, 14-year-old that had the crush, and now being an adult, you're in fatherhood, maybe I'll get there one day. But even at the level of starting to understand your parents, it's a super relatable movie. It's a really easy watch, 88 minutes in and out. And like you said, you can cut some out there, but I find this an incredibly likable movie. It's hard to watch this and not like it. And to me, that says a lot about this movie. Doesn't make it the greatest movie ever, but you're talking lowest common denominator. It's up there pretty high. So I think 34, 35 is a good score for it.
Like there's clear points where you can see that there's room for improvement.
Right.
But the overall heart of the movie is there.
And like when you look back now, with hindsight, all those other Renaissance movies, they're going full balls to the wall 100%. And if they had applied that effort and money to this movie, this could have approached 40 Dogs maybe. It was lacking the backing more than anything.
Yeah. All right, Mac, let's go on to these are really quick. I don't even call them spoilers. We've been spoiling the entire movie. But just a couple
just run through stuff, whatever you want to run through.
A couple quick notes that I have here is also what I love about this movie is this might be, and I have done no research into this, but really dealing with the relationship of parents and children, where most of the Disney movies is children dealing with the death of their parents.
Yeah, well, we still are dealing with an aspect of that here, right? There's no mother here. It's just Goofy and Mac. So there's a little bit of an aspect of that here.
But it's still parenting.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right, so fear of becoming your own parent is a big thing here that goes on throughout the movie. Max has daydreams. He has dreams about it. That opening scene with the dream, I think, is very effective in telling that.
It is. They do a really good job in the first 15 minutes, even 10 minutes of this movie, of setting the scene and getting you sort of to buy into Max.
The big screen at their school assembly is fucking nuts.
I don't know.
How do they afford that?
Yeah, I don't know. I also think it's quite a hazard to be spraying the fire extinguisher the way Bobby Zeminski was.
Well, get your fire shit out of here. We don't need your safety. But what I'm saying though is, like, it's like a 50 by 50 foot fucking screen, like a big square, where they're able to just show like a movie there.
Yeah, and this is not 2005 where Blu-ray, DVD, that sort of thing was on the rise. This is 1995 where they're still wheeling carts into the classroom. Like, I don't know if they have that projection technology at a regular old high school back in 95.
Can we get new textbooks? No, we just got that new screen in the auditorium. You can see where so one of the times where I was like, oh, this is definitely them cutting a corner is Max and PJ are having a conversation in the foreground, and in the background, you have three characters that just don't move. Off on their own in the background, not moving.
Yeah. I honestly, I didn't notice that, but I'm so happy that you did.
So the conversation that goes on between Max and Roxanne when Max tells her that he actually cannot go on the date. His dad is making him do something, which is a normal thing at that age. And he tells her immediately. It's like an hour after. It's not like he just ghosted her and didn't tell her. But he's telling her this, and her immediate reaction is, I'll find someone else.
Yeah, that was, but also, it's hard to think back 20 years ago when we were 15, roughly.
Yeah.
Um, you would make up dumb excuses for shit because you would feel hurt. You would feel not wanted. I remember specifically, not the same thing, that I hope she's a listener of the program. There's this girl way back when her name was Brittany.
Roxanne?
She was from Waltham. She invited me to a makeout party when I was like 14 or 15. Maybe even 13, somewhere 13, 14, 15. And I was like super scared. I'd never been to a makeout party in my life. I don't know what the fuck to do there. Like, of course, make out, but like, how many people are going to be there? So I ended up coming with some bullshit excuse as to why I could not go to the makeout party. I was terrified.
Are makeout parties orgies for teens?
I don't know. I didn't go. Maybe I should have gone.
I don't think I've ever been to a makeout party.
You know what? I was when I was like 13 or 14, because the next time I saw her, we didn't talk much after that. I saw her at Cam's driving school a few years later.
Oh, nice.
Next time I ran into her when I was 16 and a half.
Now, granted, Mac's response to this was not a good one, where he decided to lie.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm talking about. They're both feeling hurt back and forth, so they're just grasping for straws, trying to come up with something to make themselves feel better.
The Possum Park is a nice, Chuck E. Cheese-like. Well, my son, or I used to go to this as a kid. My son will love it. / I used to bring my son to this when he was a kid a lot. So, you kind of see that, and that makes sense of Goofy still thinking that he's just a boy.
Yeah, Possum Park is like that Chuck E. Cheese, like Storyland for around here, like that sort of stuff.
I am also, what I would love for this movie to give us as a 30-year anniversary is like, what is Pete's credit score? What is, like, how much is he borrowing to have what he has? What does he actually own in life?
Right.
Because he works in a department store, and I'm not poo-pooing that, but he has this amazing RV. We've seen in the Goof Troop show that he has these like home theaters and like top of the line shit. Like, what does he owe per month on things that he cannot afford?
It's a great question. He might be on the verge of filing bankruptcy. Also, did that show come out after the second movie or between the two movies?
I think before, or I think it was like around the same time. We could give that a Googs while I'm talking.
Okay.
You do that while I talk about Bigfoot for a second. So once again, the addition of Bigfoot it makes it more of an animated movie when it was almost getting away from being an animated movie. But like I said, as a 6-year-old seeing this, as a 7-year-old seeing this, Bigfoot in the movie is something that made me laugh, and it sticks out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about Bigfoot. Goof Troop 92 to 93. Yeah, so it came out 2 years before, ended 2 years before this. So
I think it had like 3 seasons as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
But in that time.
Yeah.
So I do want to give Goofy credit that he just accepts any time that Max is like, go this way, go this way, go this way, even though he's made this trip before and he's clearly studied that map.
Yeah, he's sort of teaching him a lesson, right? You gotta live and die by it.
Also, Max didn't need to do any of that pencil writing, any of that erasing. Granted, he did it before his dad gave him the map because of how much he trusts him. But I would even say that once Goofy puts the trust back into Max, Max should have then went and erased what he did and put it back to Idaho and then just lied about going to California.
I mean, this road trip scene, this map stuff, hijinks, is the most relatable part of the movie for me, because I've probably told this story before. I think I was 17 or 18. My dad decided to take me and my siblings to New York City to Old Yankee Stadium before it closed so we could go there, get some merch, see the stadium. And about a week before that trip, he got in a fight with his GPS, his Garmin, and hucked it out the window. So we had no GPS on the way down to New York City. When you get close to the city, the bridges are very confusing. There's parkways everywhere. If you're not from there, you don't know how to navigate it.
All the roads are super fucking tight, so you really got to pay attention.
So this motherfucker hands me a map book from like 1985 and expects me to be his navigator while he's driving. And meanwhile, it's pouring rain. I can't see shit. I can't read a map. So he's expecting me to see street signs, tell him where to go. So naturally, I fucked them up. He's mad at me. I'm mad at him for putting me in this situation in the first place. We had the fucking Garmin that you're the reason why we're in this predicament in the first place. So there was a lot of, silent time for the next 2 or 3 hours after
And
we
this
got to the
movie
city.
based off you?
In fact, we were staying in Times Square. I think we got there at like 10 or 11 at night, and I immediately just went for a walk. Like walked through Times Square for a couple hours. Like I got to get away from. We're
And
both
Mac's never
we're
been
both
seen
gonna
from again.
lose our minds here. So yeah, that was a very relatable scene.
I mean, it does remind me a lot of when you would have a hockey game, say on a Saturday or Sunday, it's a new rink, and your parent would print out the directions from MapQuest.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they really were not sure of where the rink was, you would do a practice run.
I also I'd like to thank youth hockey for bringing us around the state over the years, because once
Yeah.
I got my license, I knew how to get to a lot of places because of youth hockey and those 7 a.m. games going all the way across the fucking state, north, south, east, west.
Once again, credit to, and this is where my credit union is. It is the hot tub scene with Pete and Goofy of, Goofy saying, "My son loves me," and Pete saying, "My son respects me." And that's what they both want.
Right.
They both specifically want that from their sons. Yet Goofy, and I'm not going to say he's a pushover, Goofy is just open to listening to other people's ideas, which is good.
Yeah.
Whereas Pete is my way or the highway.
Yeah, Goofy's a great father. And it also like toleration and like understanding differences and not judging, like that's a whole part of this too. There's really some like deep-seated themes here.
And then you do get into, once again, another pretty cartoonish scene of the car going over the bridge after are we going right or left? And I'll tell you right now, and this is maybe my fault, I didn't know where Idaho was.
Idaho's in that upper central Midwest area where there's like 5 persons per square mile. That's
so credit to this movie. It taught me where Idaho is. Just
like
how the Animaniacs taught me all of the state capitals, the presidents, and the countries in the world.
Yeah, we all know, and I'll try to do this backwards here so it'll be better visually. We all know, right? Oregon, Washington, West Coast. We all know Chicago, right dead center. But the between there, or that's Wyoming, Idaho, the Dakotas, Montana, they're all up there somewhere.
I feel like you were good at the geography bee.
I was. I made it on, if you recall, in 6th grade, I made it to the top 8. I made it on stage. I think I finished 6th. I was great at maps and geography way back.
And Mac lost because he didn't know where Idaho was.
It helps me tremendously in bar trivia. It's the only time geography's ever helped me in my old age.
Mac turns around like Dr. Evil when they, God, can you tell us where this state is?
You know what I absolutely crushed like a month ago? I was doing bar trivia. They asked for the tallest point in Massachusetts, and I knew it. I bet you don't.
Yeah, the state bird is the chickadee. So
it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It is Mount Greylock, by the way. It's the tallest point in Massachusetts.
So after the cartoonist scene of the car going into the river to the waterfall, before the waterfall, you have the conversation of Max saying, "I'm not a little boy anymore. I'm grown up and I've got my own life." And then
man.
Goofy with the response.
I'm 40.
Goofy with the response of, "I know that. I just want to be a part of it." Which that's the real heart-wrenching part of the movie that then leads into maybe the only I would say the only good song sung between the two of them.
Yeah. It's a great line, and like as you get older as a son, that's you should know that, and like your parents definitely make that clear. But when you're young and you're kind of fucked up in the head, you're not sure of that, you're tremendously like second guessing everything. But once you realize that fully, that like your parents just want to be a part of your life, that changes everything. And unfortunately for a lot of people, it takes longer than others to understand that, or for that to be true.
Like I said earlier, the Excite Bike Mania scene truly is at the Powerline concert using the perfect cast. They do use the perfect cast just before that to save Goofy. And I actually do like this. And someone pointed it out in the Goofy documentary, that the only time where it's not like a cartoonish Goofy yell or gulp or anything like that is when he's going down the waterfall and he's actually yelling like a human being.
Yeah.
And you're
yeah,
like, oh, he's in real danger.
Right. Breaking character, basically.
It isn't like a,
Yeah.
So perfect cast to save him. He learned from his dad, which is nice. But then, so here's my big critique here, Mac, is the entire movie, Goofy's biggest fear is Max ending up in jail.
Yeah.
What does he do at the end of the movie? He helps his son trespass and get on the stage with a celebrity so he can impress a girl. That's something that I think might put you in jail.
Yeah, but part of this journey, as big of a journey as it is for Max, it's that for Goofy as well. He learns Max is a good kid. Max is going to be all right. Even if he does end up in jail for a couple days, he's going to be fine.
He learned that Max's fate is jail anyways, and I'm going to help him do it.
He might as well get
I
the
can't
chick.
stop it. There's nothing I can do about it. But yeah, this is a great movie.
Yeah, it's a very good movie, and like I said, baseline, it's hard to not like this movie.
Let's get into Max.
And Max, that could be anything. It could be a boat. And Mac, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, people do not consider this to be a part of the Disney Renaissance that ran from 1989 to 1999, even though it came out right in the middle of it in 1995.
Yeah.
The movies that are in the Disney Renaissance are The Little Mermaid, The Rescuers Down Under. So if you want to not count movies, and I like The Rescuers Down Under, don't count that one.
I mean, that's fair, but that's really the only one that's the stray from all the others. If you're
Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan.
Now, it is interesting to note, I think Hercules is the most like this one, where it's the least serious of all the other ones. You know what I mean? Like the Goofy movie, it's dramatic, but it's not as dramatic as all those like Shakespearean and old school stories that are told as kids' stories. But when you're thinking in that much, like it doesn't fit in with any of those movies. So I understand why it's not included.
I will say that Hercules, I just recently rewatched it with my son. It is a fun, grand old time, and I would once again put it up there, soundtrack-wise, music-wise, with any of the other movies.
James Wood is incredible. He's a crazy, stupid person these days, but he's so good in that movie.
Bobcat Goldthwait is amazing in this.
Yep.
So I will ask you, where would you rank the Goofy movie against the other 10 movies that I just listed?
It's below all of them, except for maybe Rescuers Down Under.
No, I have pretty high praise of Hercules.
You also named like 5 40 doggers there, right? Do it again.
Little Mermaid,
40 dogger.
The Rescuers Down Under.
That's probably in this same range here.
Beauty and the Beast,
40 dogger.
Aladdin,
40 dogger.
Lion King,
40 dogger.
Pocahontas.
40 dogger.
I wouldn't say Pocahontas.
Oh, I love Pocahontas. Fuck you. I named my first cat Miko after the raccoon. I'm not standing for Pocahontas slander here. Come on. If anything, Mermaid's the one that's a little under the other ones.
I would say Carrot Sign Facing Goofy movie over Pocahontas.
You're stupid. You're dumb.
How dare you? Hunchback of Notre Dame, which maybe that's something that I just need to watch as an adult.
No, it's not a 40 dogger.
As a kid, I did not care for that movie.
I liked Esmeralda.
Maybe I need to give it a fresh pair of eyes of like, wow, they're doing this in a Disney movie type of thing.
You know what? I might take Goofy movie over that. That might be like 34, 35, 36. It's in that range.
Hercules
is much better.
Mulan
is great.
Mulan is great.
Mulan's great. Is Mulan a 40 dogger though?
I don't think it's a 40 dogger.
Yeah,
and I would
fall short of that.
I put it just below the big three. The big three, I would say Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast.
I think Pocahontas is in there too.
I wouldn't put Pocahontas in there. And I think visually Tarzan
just around the river bend.
I know, just once more.
Pocahontas is great music. Better than Mermaid.
I think that Tarzan is visually the best looking one.
Tarzan is close to a 40 dogger. Great music.
But I think Tarzan is just outside of my Disney window.
Yeah, it's right at the end for us. But that's like a great soundtrack that might bump it up to 40.
Because I also just rewatched the
Great
animated Lilo and Stitch.
Mhm.
That movie fucking rules.
Oh, that movie's the shit. Yeah. That
Yeah.
and
No.
I'm very much looking forward to the live action.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah.
So guys, tell us, go on social media right now. Where does a Goofy movie rank against the other Disney Renaissance films? How do you feel about the movie? Speaking as a son, a father, a daughter, a mother, how does this movie now speak to you?
Also, if you have an orange shirt, let us know, because the whole time I've been staring at our orange shirts. It's very jarring.
Where can the folks find us?
You can find us on X and Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. Every other platform, we are Mac & Goo. It's Mac Shift 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify, but more importantly, we're on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free T-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. That's Watertown Sportswear, 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com, expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com. All right, check us out. Top of next week, we are going to have a news dump. And then at the end of the week, I'm hoping for Sinners.
Sinners.
100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Does it really? I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I like that.
Tuesdays are goose days. I abuse kangaroos.
Bye.
Damn Burton.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.
Now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.